Western Alaska is reeling after the remains of Typhoon Henning came through the coastal line, unleashed in record-breaking winds, massive waves, and catastrophic flooding. Entire communities have been left under current disable. The meteorologists are calling the most violent storm to strike Alaska in decades. The storm, which transformed from the typical typhoon into the powerful extratropical cyclone, slammed it into the Bering Sea coast with the sustained winds up to 116 km/h, and the storm surged in opposite sea waters more than 10 feet. Island. Towns including Name, Golovin, Hopper Bay, and Shattered Lake suffered the worst of the devastation. A witness described a terrified scenes of entire section of shoreline where street homes floated away and finished boats and smashed pieces. "I feel like the end of the world," said Martina Neural, residents of Golovin. Officials say hundreds of homes have been damaged or destroyed. In one of Alaska's largest western statements flooded swept through the historic downtown, leaving vehicles submerged and power lines torn apart. The National Weather Service confirmed that water levels were the highest ever recorded since 1968.
Nein, die Mama um! Die Mama!
Official warning that unusually warm in interaction with the storm had intensified its severity. Coastal communities, many of which are already vulnerable due to performance of melting and shoreline erosion, reported isolated incidents of severe flooding and wave damage. Scientists and local leaders pointed to changing ocean temperature and shifting seasonal patterns and factors that could make storm in Alaska more volatile and difficult to predict. Forecasters have collapsed a continent vigilant in effect such and rising river levels and debris to highway roads risk even after the winds had died down. The priority now is recovery, cleaning highways, assessing structure damage and restoring service. Officials saying a long-term resilient strong river definites updated evacuation plans and investments in a warning system will be critical to communities facing a future with extreme storm may occur more frequently. This week, the United States is experiencing unstoppable weather from the intensified Atlantic hurricane through to rain coastal waves to intense connective outbreak to inland areas and unusual lake summer atmospheric river reporting to flood in the Pacific Ocean coast. The variety of northern hurricane force winds to the sea, torrential rains, inland flash floods, and destructive winds gas is testing the resilience of emergency service and highlighting now the definite parts of the country must prepare to the very definite threat at the same time. In the Atlantic, tropical storm Erin was quickly developed into lamp track system and the forecast to become first hurricane on the season this weekend in the same moved west-north across the one-way. Forecasts say it could rapidly intensify, complicating planning for the island communities to the coastal area along the West Atlantic and Bermuda when the center does not reach in the East Coast. Broad waves and the threat to reach current could cause dangerous south to the coastal flooding in some areas on the East Coast. Official and meteorological service are urged residents to closely monitor update. Brace Bureau, Green Brody, and a White Oak Brew overflowing stimulation, a rate of devastation scenario. Entire neighborhoods were submerged. Emergency crews performers of 1,400 rescue using e-boats to helicopters to reach extended residents, many trapped off rooftops in the attic spaces. San Antonio and Austin facing flash floods that swept through the major roadway and overwhelming storm drains. In the country, mobile homes were washed away. Downtown Austin was so powerful through a building evacuation in wind gusts exceeded 17 millihours. Schools, hospital, and transit system across the region helped operations. Governor Greg Abbott activated the Texas devastation of emergency management, deployed National Guard troops, and declared a statewide disaster. This is not an isolated weather event and a climate emergency unfolding in real time, he said during the press conference. The National Weather Service issued level 4 flood warning of much of southwestern central Texas, warning the continued danger due to extended soil, rising rivers, and further rainfall expected for the lightning storm bands. Climate scientists for the Rice University and University of Texas confirmed the record Gulf temperature helped all the storm's intensity. Meteorologist Dr. Kaizen Lutz said, "We are seeing storms that are rather slower and destructive, all classic signs of the climate change. Damage assessment that ongoing by preliminary estimates suggest over 3 billion in losses to infrastructure, agriculture, and private property. As sky begin to clear, tens of thousands of Texans new particularly related to rebuilding homes, communities to sense safety amid the growing weather uncertainty." Coastal villages already threatening to permafrost melting, coastal erosion, safer additions damage from the strong waves. Scientists point to rising ocean's temperature and changing seasonal patterns to contributing factors to warn that Alaska infrastructure built for the definite climate is under increasing strain. Local leaders have called to renewed investment in river protection, improving early warning system to uprooted evacuation routes. As wind speeds decreasing, the priority shifted to recovery, cleaning debris, invested bridges, and restore power. For many residents, this storm was a stark reminder that climate change in the state exact by the extreme weather events, and the communities must adapt quickly to protect the life, livelihood, and fragile landscape to which they depend. Residents along the North California coast are making at least minutes operation on Hurricane Helene. Stranger is not southwestern United States. The storm, now a Category 3 hurricane, continues to grand stretch with a sustained winds of 120 km/h. Forecasts are warning of potentially devastating consequences as Helene moves within a few centimeters of the region. The National Hurricane Center was updated in devastation, warning that Helene could stretch further before the making rainfall. The storm is expected to bring dangerous winds, heavy rain, and significant storm surge that could lead to widespread flooding, especially in low-lying areas in the coast. Authorities have issued a hurricane warning for the large parts of the North California coast, urged residents to evacuate to take all necessary precautions. Evacuation orders have already been issued at residents in the outer coast, including popular tourist destinations such as Kidd's Island, Accolade Island. Evacuation shelters have been stopped in the entire of island, and local authorities are working with the Red Crescent. All organizations provide safe housing to evacuate. Ferry service between the islands have been suspended, and the highway traffic were increasing dramatically, over residents rushing to move island before the conditions deteriorate. North Carolina governor has declared a state of emergency, mobilizing National Guard and other emergency personnel to help with the preparations and a potential recovery. This is a larger and dangerous storm, Cooper asked during press conference. Alaska, a glacier breach in January southern local northerns. In January, a glacier lake outburst from the medical drainage system caused debris to flow down the river, overflowing temporarily proactive structures to flooding low-lying yards and at least a small road bridge. Rapid melting and sudden outflows from the glacier blocked basins and the increasing problem in the warming Alaska. Warming summers earlier should melt in the increasing precipitation can fill ice-blocked lakes more quickly, increasing the likelihood of flash floods that occur without warming. City service and volunteers rushed into reinforced riverbanks and removed debris while the residents of the most affected area were temporarily evacuated until authorities get the all clear. The incident highlighted the need to regular monitoring the glacier basins to improve public warning system in the area. There were no other risk in the ice jams. Pacific Northwest unusual atmospheric river in August. The rare atmospheric river in August is forecast to bring prolonged wet weather to western Washington, Oregon, and southwestern British Columbia. Forecast agencies have warned to rainfall among the coast while the wake water precipitation in some mountains would sheet in a matter of hours. Washington is assessing the damage after the parents Pacific storm flooding in low-lying area and dumping heavy snow on the Cascade flooded landslides and hailstorm widespread power outage. Along the Cherokee and Snohomish River, gullied exceeded flooded stage overnight flooded forests and isolated rural communities. The water rose like 10 train, said Alicia had turned in a mountain barrel. They moved live livestock to change parking to them. Water reached to barn door. In Seattle, Tacoma, gust of winds broken branches to poles, hidden light rail service and canceled dozens of flights, where cleanup crews speed up across the major roads. For cancellation spread throughout the Puget Sound and the coastal town of Joaquin to Long Beach. Strategically to deal, the waves spurted over the temporary embankments. High in the mountains, snowglades and Devon Pass become bottlenecks. Overturns drag, avalanches buries and change require for travel along statements. Considered it a clear shoe may occur without warning. Warning, WS. Spokesman Caleb Morita. Forecast said the system trapped into deep tropical moisture with a powerful rain band swept over the came communities into hours. In Miami-Dade, in the case of Brent Band, spout water loaded in a brief tornado warning, tearing in avenues to ripping type from the old roofs. We're asking people to they ever flooded road to turn back into drown station, urged country emergency service representative. Hospitals were treating patient and hypothermia and carbon monoxide by zoning from the generators. Shelters filled for the families and paid to the plastic containers. The volunteers hunted out traps, tension and dry socks. They will tell people to prepare supplies for 3 days, said the chief of the Coastal Fire Department. Help is one of the way by the first 74 hours depended on all of us. When the sky cleared, Florida first Tesla work on restoring power drainage area and mapping hiding damage to sea walls and a septic system. For the many storm was stuck remaining with a global warning, rising sea levels and heavier rains, and the next wave could come sooner and rising higher than the maps show. Volunteers walked through the night, placing standards around the area when the water ceased slipping through. This system was built in the centuries to come, warned flood manager Diego Cho, and the river is reminding us for the earth. In the Celes and Pacho valleys, farmers waded through the roads and flooded strawberries and latitudes, dealing the direct blow in the state winter produce. Further east, heavy wet snow blanket in this side, Sierra Nevada went turned into rain, wetting down roofs and triggering avalanches to meltwater. Thundered in a catchment bases below. Chris in a truck with South Lake through cleared water pipes, knowing the clogged pipe cloud load in the area and imagine a broken dam. Hospital treated hypothermia, burns in carbon monoxide poisoned from the user generators indoors, shelters filled with families with beds and garage bands to belonging community organization 100 up traps changing to hot metals. Official reappeared to all refrain, turn back, don't draw, and the drivers tested they like in a blanket rule. Forecasters said that this situation, warm seas, saturated soil and suggestive storm turned original rain into crisis. When the skies finally clear, California will face a long day ahead, draining heats, inspiring dams and bridge, testing wells and inspecting system and detailing crops losers. The alleged task will remain strangling the state with its likely mine water and a composter falls 100 in the state longer with the wall recurrent on the maps. The central valley, knowing the national fruit and vegetable breakthrough separate devastation losers in agriculture. Flooded fields and strawberries, already grits and citrus fruits could lead to months to shortage to high price across the country. Dairy farmers rushed to mow in the heat, and the grain saw an erosion system to destroy it under the bird water. The Sierra Nevada faces double threat, heavy snow loads on the roofs followed the rapid melting and warm rain accelerated runoff. Avalanches have formed close to major ski resorts and a mountain town such as Turkey have been cut off from the world. More than 500,000 homes have been of several days continue to suffer from the power outage. Hospitals are treating their large number of cases and hypothermia, carbon monoxide poisoning from the dangerous oven generator and storm-related injury. Emergency shelters have overflowed, provided refuge to families who have been not able to return homes to wait. Volunteers walked through the night, placing standards around the area when the water ceased slipping through. This system was built in the centuries to come, warned flood manager Diego Cho, and the river is reminding us for the earth. In the Celes and Pacho valleys, farmers waded through the roads and flooded strawberries and latitudes, dealing the direct blow in the state winter produce. Further east, heavy wet snow blanket in this side, Sierra Nevada went turned into rain, wetting down roofs and triggering avalanches to meltwater. Thundered in a catchment bases below. Chris in a truck with South Lake through cleared water pipes, knowing the clogged pipe cloud load in the area and imagine a broken dam. Hospital treated hypothermia, burns in carbon monoxide poisoned from the user generators indoors, shelters filled with families with beds and garage bands to belonging community organization 100 up traps changing to hot metals. Official reappeared to all refrain, turn back, don't draw, and the drivers tested they like in a blanket rule. Forecasters said that this situation, warm seas, saturated soil and suggestive storm turned original rain into crisis. When the skies finally clear, California will face a long day ahead, draining heats, inspiring dams and bridge, testing wells and inspecting system and detailing crops losers. The alleged task will remain strangling the state with its likely mine water and a composter falls 100 in the state longer with the wall recurrent on the maps. The Central Valley, known as the national fruit and vegetable break, suffered devastation losers in agriculture. Flooded fields and strawberries, electric grids and citrus fruits could lead to months to shortage to high price across the country. Dairy farmers rushed to mow in the heat, and the grain saw an erosion system to destroy it under the bird water. The Sierra Nevada faces double threat: heavy snow loads on the roofs, followed the rapid melting and warm rain accelerated runoff. Avalanches have formed close to major ski resorts, and a mountain town such as Turkey have been cut off from the world. More than 500,000 homes have been of several days continued to suffer from the power outage. Hospitals are treating their large number of cases and hypothermia, carbon monoxide poisoning from the dangerous app generating and storm-related injury. Emergency shelters have overflown, provided refuge to families who have been not able to return homes to wait. This week, Alaska has been hit by violent storm and damaged the coastline, knocked down trees and caused sudden waves and a midway from gracious and low-lying area. From Juneau to Anchorage, emergency service rushed to clear highways, restore power and reinforce river banks, while the residents assessment damage, searching for missing pets and the salvaged family heirlooms. In the capital, a dramatic geyser breaking down in mid-hill catchment area, causing a rapid flood wave in overflowing local protective structures to cause the record water level in a mid-hill rivers. Residents of area near the riverbanks reported flooded yards and a badly damaged small bridges. Quick action to authority and volunteers helped prevent more casualties. Across South Central Alaska, hurricane force winds uprooted century old poor streets and broke power lines, leaving thousands of people without power to several hours. Airports and ferries were shut down to runways and narrow were cleared to debris. Communities that depended to maritime transportation immediately felt in the impact. Officials say unusually warm air in a period atmosphere intensified system caused strong winds and more intense coastal waves than predicted. Torrential rain and severe thunderstorm battered much of Texas, caused widespread flooding, property damage, and mass evacuation in several counties. The multi-day weather event caused a slow-moving low-pressure system, causing chaos in the such as Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, and parts of East Texas. Horace County received more than 300 mm of rainfall in 36 hours, causing bayou, drainage canals, and flood control reservoirs to overflow. The Buffalo Bayou and the Bryce Bayou overflowed flood residential area to force an emergency service to conduct more than 500 rescue operations in Greater Houston area. Governor Greg Abbott declared a state of emergency in more than 13 countries, mobilizing Texas National Guard and activating Emergency Operations Center. This is not just heavy rain, Abbott said at a new conference. This is live theater, including that require immediate action. In Austin, flash floods turned roads into rivers, blocking vehicles and forcing dozens of water rescue. Several low-lying crossings were washed away, and the schools in Travis County were closed to safety reasons. Meanwhile, in the Dallas, flood wound heavy rain overflowing through drained, closing major interstate highway, including section in I-35 and I-20. The National Weather Service issued a flood warning that most of central southwestern Texas, not on the saturated soil, and additional rainfall could prolong it to the crisis. Experts from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration warned that the climate trends to contributing for more frequent and intense rainfall for southern United States. Washington state is experiencing one of the most severe storms in recent years, which lasted several days, destroyed coastal towns, caused roads to overflow, and covered cascades with heavy snow, prone to hailstone avalanches. Authorities confirmed at least 9 deaths related to the storm, dozens of injuries, and thousands of displaced people in western and eastern Washington state. In the key of Peace Country overlapping streams and the south suburbs, living homes uninhabitable. I lived 40 years and never seen like this, said Howard Kim, the related teacher from Uber. I felt like nature was redrawing the map. Emergency service conducted more than 300 water rescue, many of whom cars abandoned to flooded highways. The Puget Sound region experiencing hurricane force wind that uprooted century old trees and damaged power lines. More than 315,000 customers were without power, and a peak this storm and outdoor continued several days in rural communities. Further service was suspended, isolated. The storm was subsided in the aftermath of only beginning to be acid. In the coastal communities from the initial coast to Tampa Bay on the Keys, homeowners are cleaning up flooded rooms and evade souvenirs from the volunteers and distributing bathing water and traps. Officials report dozens of injuries and several deaths, but it not slowly. Green losers, ruined planes, flooded cars, solid crews, and will reverberate for months. Rescue teams racing against time to save families from rooftops and stranded motorists from the rising water pipes. We were waist deep in water, holding down on daughter cried about the water, recalls Malco Alvarez. Neighbors were barely known with the howling standards at the midnight. Shelters were overloaded with the pets of people, and local churches and businesses quickly become coordination centers and donation to the hot meals. The damage to infrastructure is extensive. Salt water and coordinated roads and bridge sewage system are overflowing, and electrical substations have been knocked down by the flooding. Energy companies working their shift to restore power, by the many small streets remain without electricity, complicating recovery efforts and the increasing of the risk and food polish to generator issue. California is facing for the full force and a historic crisis caused by the flooding. After several days of the continuing rain, a river have burst their banks, entire areas and underwater, and the state of emergency have been declared from the Los Angeles County and the Sacramento Valley. Official new reported dozens of deaths, thousands rescued, and entire town cut off by overflowing reservoirs and a washed-out road. In Monterey County, the Pocho River's downburst forcing the mass evacuation and flooding farmland chest deep in water. Families have been overnighted at the south of Sirens, camp crying children and pets through the flooded street. We lost everything in an hour, said Rosa Martinez and displaced farm workers. The water counted fast that hit times that save anything. In the Bay Area, communities faced chaos and landslides, buried cars and closed rail lines. In the Santa Cruz, Palmer's waterfront, shops are damaged by power waves and inland resorts overflowing stranded satellites. Crew rushed and new Highway 17s were bullet the size of small cars and fallen onto the asphalt. A powerful storm system, the reminder of Typhoon Henning, caused catastrophic destruction in the western Alaska, leaving communities cut off from the world, home destroyed, and the coastline. Reported the hurricane force wind and a high wave. The rare event, which occurred over the weekend, was described by officials as the most powerful September storm in Alaska history. The National Weather Service reported with a gust exceeding 145 km per hour, combined with an unprecedented storm surge that flooded coastal town from Nome to Hobart Bay. Entire roads disrupted, and seawater, and hundreds of residents were forced to evacuate the rising tides flood their home. "We have never seen anything like this," said Jacob N., mayor of Holovakin, where dozens of homes were swept their foundation. "The ocean just carried out. It swallowed everything." Skyline images show that large selection of Alaska west coast have been completely transformed. Beaches have been ordered and entire villages have been temporarily cut off. Thousands of people were left without power, and communication lines were disrupted in remote areas for the complication rescue operation. Airports reported diversions and cancellation on the runways were lifted in debris. First service where sea levels rose and ports were damaged. Utility crews rushed to restore power, and the search and rescue teams cleared blocked highways. Scientists and local leaders said they even highlight changing climate dramatic in Alaska. Rising air and ocean temperature, Eli sulfur and permafrost through the cloud intensified storm increasing a runoff into glacier basin and avoiding coastal definis, making floods and a wind disaster more frequent and destructive. Experts are calling the long-term investments, permanent protection of rivers, approved evacuation routes, and improving monitoring to global lakes. When the wind died down, in the urgent task was recovery, pumping water in the flooded yards, repairing power lines, installing bridges, and acing the damage in small businesses that had separated the loss of tourists and transportation. For many communities, the southern storm was a stark reminder of the climate change in Alaska is already attending the rhythm of life, and that more powerful and long-term resilience issue will be needed to protect homes, infrastructure, and livelihood.